empowering survivors, building financial resilience for victims of domestic abuse. Like I said, my name is Francis Ebigbola. Ebigbola means wealth. So it means a family of wealthy people. That is what Ebigbola means, Francis Ebigbola. I'm trying to move to the next. Okay. So I want us to establish the objectives. And I want to say well done to everyone that's here again today here. You know, in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12, it says wisdom is the defense and money is a defense. It says, but the excellency of wisdom is that it gives life to those that have it. And I'm seeing this convention combining wisdom with money. So wisdom is the defense, and money is the defense. For as many as are participating in this conference, either in here or online, you are combining the defense mechanisms of wisdom and money. That means God appreciates the fact, the creator of the universe appreciates that we all need wisdom and we all need money. Okay, so like the Bible also says that which of you want to build a house? Will not sit down first and count the cost and see if you have enough to do it, lest you start and you are not able to complete it. So God acknowledges that we all need money. And so when we talk about abuse, it's very important that we pay attention to what we need to do. And so I'm getting these objectives out here for this presentation. I said this, it outlines the financial challenges faced by survivors of domestic abuse, and it provides resources and empowering strategies for building financial resilience. So that's one of the objectives we want to achieve here. And the second thing is I want us to make this clear that while women are frequently seen as the primary victims, it is crucial to recognize that men can experience domestic abuse. And there might be more women here than the men because it's an international conference for victims of domestic abuse, and this is a women program, basically. But I know every woman here. You have a son, you have a brother, you have an uncle, you have a father, you have family members who might be going through abuse in one way or the other too. And that because you are empowered and you can have this understanding, where you spot one happening to your son, to your brother, to your uncle, you can easily identify, oh, my uncle is going through an abuse. My son is going through an abuse. And you can help that individual out. And that's why it's very important that we all pay attention. But men do go through abuse too. And in fact, there's a research in the United States that says 1 out of every 7 men goes through an abuse. The only thing about men is that because of ego, they don't talk about it. Because the society doesn't believe them, they believe, oh, the women are the weaker vessels, so the men tend to keep quiet. And even when they speak up, sometimes people try to underrate what they are going through. But I tell you, men also cry. Okay? Then this discussion aims to empower survivors, whether man or woman, by understanding their struggles and building financial resilience for both sexes. So let's recognize the patterns of domestic abuse. Many times we look at domestic abuse as the physical violence. And some of our speakers have already identified them in one way or the other. Domestic abuse is a pervasive problem that impacts individuals and families across the globe. And to recognize domestic abuse, I would say it can be physical violence, which means you see somebody hitting someone or slapping them or using objects to harm them. That's the one we are very familiar with. But there are other forms of domestic abuse, and it can be undermining parental roles. There are instances where people use children even as tools to manipulate. It's an abuse. There are instances where there are emotional and psychological manipulation, like somebody belittling you, making you like as if you have no value, trying to talk you down, making you feel that you are not as important, that they can do without you. That is an abuse. It's emotional, it's psychological manipulation, mocking and criticisms. There could be sexual manipulation, it's an abuse. And that is when people are denying or using sex as a tool of manipulation. And like they want a favor from you, you have to do certain things for them to do it. There'll be instances where the woman will tell the man, oh, your mates are how they are doing jobs, making money, you are there asking for this. You're a lazy man, you are this, so they belittle you. And many times we've seen men go out of the houses, the homes, looking for comfort, looking for where to lay their shoulder outside, because the house becomes a hell for such men. But the outcome is what people know. And I'm saying this because you may have a brother or an uncle or a son somewhere, or a brother who might be going through that. It might be under an abuse, which can fall under this too. Then there could be false accusations, unfounded accusations or threats of legal action. If you do anything, I will do this to you, I will accuse you. I've seen people tell their spouses and say, I will lie on you, and they will believe me. Whatever I tell them, they're going to believe. I'll make sure I destroy you. Such people have made such comment is an abuse. And there could be love bombing. That is when you see people, oh, you know we've been this before, why are you doing this? You know I love you, you know I can do it, you know I don't mean it. But you think they are really serious about it, but no, they're going to repeat the same act again. It's an abuse. Abuse is something that is of a trend. It's not like a one-time thing. Once it follows a pattern and a trend, it becomes an abuse. And that is why we can separate between discipline and abuse, even between parents and their children. There could be discipline, but there's a line where discipline becomes an abuse. And that is why we need to pay attention. It can come in any of these flavors. And when you see one and you spot one, you need to watch out so that you can see what you do. Then I mentioned about financial control. That is when somebody tries to use money to manipulate you, that, oh, you can't really do anything on your own unless somebody signs off on it and say, oh, do this, do that. Is the one that's taking charge of everything. There are women that have been subject to such abuse where is the man that controls the bank account. The woman is putting money in that account, but it's the man that is actually spending the money. And the woman, before they can do anything, they must get permission, even when it involves taking care of their own families. The man must sign off on it before they can even spend, even for their own parents. And I know, like, one of the people that contributed before said the social media has helped now, putting out there a lot of abuse people are going through. So the new generation, they are trying to make sure that they can afford, okay, you keep an account, I keep an account. Then we have a joint account. So if I need to buy anything for me, for my family, for my mother, for my father, I should be able to go in there and just spend that money to take care of people that have worked so far. Have worked to take me to where I am now, for you to even see me. Then I say recognizing the patterns. Then the next thing I say, how do we understand the financial challenges of domestic abuse? Now, victims of domestic abuse face numerous financial challenges, including loss of income. These are basically some of the basic financial challenges that they will face. There will be loss of income for victims of domestic abuse, because it comes to a point where the victims are forced to quit whatever is giving them source of income. We have seen situations where they will have to relocate out of their present areas, and they have to go elsewhere. They might need to escape the abuse. They might need to go to a new location. People may even have to cross borders sometimes to seek for relief somewhere. So there's a loss of income. And they lose access to their accounts or experience reduced work hours. Then another challenge they could face is limited resources. Our victims may lack the knowledge, the skills, or support needed to navigate the financial system. Is it that they don't have the understanding, the knowledge? People don't pay too much attention to money. You know, when you work, it's better to work. But sometimes we work so hard, but we don't work smart. It's not how much you make, it's how you spend it. I remember back in Africa when I was working in our banks and we are competing with designing the GTBs. I used to work with Chartered Bank then. And our MD would tell us and said, even if you are not making as much money as GTB or Zenith, but how do we make sure we are profitable? So we have to balance the cost, the benefit, the income and expenses. So it's not just working hard, but we have to work smart. And I don't see why someone that's earning $10, £10, €10 in an hour will go for a 4-bedroom duplex when you are even working extra hours. You're working 16 hours every day, but because you want to show up that, oh, you are living in a 4-bedroom duplex and you are spending all the money you're making and you're paying for mortgages. It doesn't make sense. You're working so hard, you're not working smart. So there could be limited resources where victims lack the knowledge and the skills and the support they need to navigate the financial system. Then there could be debt accumulation. The abusers may use the victim's credit cards or force them to take out loans, leaving them with overwhelming debt. Every time there's an abuse, it could come in form of financial abuse such that the partners, the money that two people have worked together for now is in the hand of one person, and the other person is not having access to be able to spend that money. They have to go out there looking for ways to survive, go into credit card debts, accumulating loans that they could not pay off. In fact, we have come to understand that when people get married and they are taking loans before, now when they come together and they are responsible in one way or the other for the debts and the loans of the other person. So that's why even people that are getting married now, you want to be sure some part of the discussion should be how much school loan do you have, so that I know what I'm getting into. Because if the person are taking so much loans, maybe it's about £50,000 or euros out there, and you marry to him, you need to know that that's part of your debt portfolio, because eventually the two of you are going to start paying that loan. So you want to ask so many questions. It's not just I love you kind of a thing. There are deeper things that you need to know about that person, especially the financial aspect of it. Apart from the earth, you need to understand what the finance of that person looks like. So there could be debt accumulation. Now, we're talking about barriers to financial independence. I put these symbols there to let you have an idea of what it looks like to the person that is experiencing it. You see, I put that person that is putting his head like somebody's in a prison. Like, how do I get out of this? Barriers to financial independence. Survivors of domestic abuse face a multitude of barriers to achieving financial independence. And these barriers can include lack of access to financial resources. In most cases, people that are abusers, they control the family's finances. They leave survivors with limited funds or access to their own money. That's one of the barriers that happen to financial independence when there are incidents of domestic abuse. There are limited job opportunities. The survivors, they struggle to find employment due to lack of education, work experience, or the ability to maintain stable employment due to the trauma they've endured. It's not because they don't have the certificates or the degrees or the experience. Some are because they could not find the employment because of their education, especially for people that have been made to be housewives. I think it's changing now, where both people are working. But most times there are people that take care of the children, I go work, and then they are the one controlling the finances. That is very dangerous for the 20th century woman. Then the work experience, sometimes they've gone through some trauma that they can't even concentrate at work anymore because of what is happening in the house. And so there are limited job opportunities. There are people that have to be absent from work because of what they are going through. They're either in the doctor's offices here and there, or because there are some things that are going on in their heads. Emotionally, they are disturbed, they're trauma. So they could not make as much income that they would have made if there was no abuse going on. And Of course, people are talking out now, but there are lots of situations where people don't talk before. So survivors may be saddled with debt incurred by the abusers. Like I mentioned before, when you talk about school loans, there are loans that are joined, there are mortgages that are there. So you might, as a survivor, you might find out that you have something going on that is not just in your own name, but in the name of the other person who was the abuser. And so what do? Those are barriers. Then I said lack of financial knowledge. Survivors may have limited financial literacy, making it challenging to manage their finances effectively and build long-term financial stability, which means you can have the degree, you can be anything, but you might not know much about managing money. And that is why you see situation people, it's not how much you make, it's how do you spend it. That is very important. Do we see people that can be in this country for maybe 10 years, somebody that come in 5 years, and you see what they're doing within 5 years, and you see yourself 10 years, because you are dipping your hands in too many things that shouldn't have any business doing. Because many of us, we have this cultural thing that makes us to want to compete with each other, to want to show that I've arrived, to want to, it's just a show off. It doesn't add any value to anybody's life. Cut your coat according to your size. That's what makes sense. Then there's fear and intimidation. Survivors may fear repercussions from their abusers or if they attempt to gain financial independence. We've talked about fear before when our lawyer was speaking, that some people, they cannot speak because of fear. What will happen? And Mommy Bita, I think, mentioned about how the culture is like, is your husband, just take it like that, just be understanding, and you are suppressed to continue to bear those things. So there's fear and intimidation. So those are barriers for financial independence for the survivors. So how do you build financial resilience? I said there are multifaceted approaches you can use for immediate needs and your long-term financial goals. The first thing is safety planning. And someone mentioned that you have to make sure you are safe. Prioritize your safety first. Because you are under abuse, you want to make sure you are safe and you have a plan to secure housing and financial resources, potentially working with organizations specializing in domestic abuse support, like Time to Heal. So you want to look for places like, for companies like Time to Heal, and say, hey, there's something going on. This is what it is. They can give you some advice and say, go this way. Because it comes to a point when you're going through that process, there are copies of statements that you need to keep. I've seen situations where a woman and a man, they are building houses together. Even out there in Africa, everybody is spending money and putting it together. And at a point in time, under the domestic abuse, the woman could not take it anymore and needed to escape. And the man says, it's my house. I built it. And at one time, I had to advise, I said, you go, it was good enough for you that you still have some transactions that went through the banking system. So you have some financial audit trail. Go tell your bank and make statements of those transactions that you made to show that you are part of this building. And that really helped. So that we don't have to go into cash every time. Even when it comes to paying tuition for the children, it's like, I'm the one thinking of the children. You are not. You are not. I have transactions that show that I am the one paying the school fees. Because the situation is now that you have some women that are actually the breadwinners. But the man at the end of this, he comes with this ego, is my house. And they want to send the woman away. After all the toil, it's not fair enough. So, like I said, you need financial counseling. You need to develop a budget and how to manage your debt. And then explore strategies for building savings and credit. We'll go to them in a few minutes. Then I said you need to access resources and programs that will provide job training, skills development, and job placement assistance to help survivors re-enter the workforce. Because they need to go back to the workforce. They have gone through trauma. There are a lot of experience they have gone through. You know, when people go through this abuse, it's the person that's on the spot that knows what he or she is going through. Nobody, no family member, no pastor, no clergy, nobody knows. It's you that's on the spot. It's you that feel the pains. So when you understand it gets to a point where you can't deal with it anymore, you need to escape. Because people will not understand what you're going through until you make your mind and say, I cannot take this anymore. It's too much for me. Because your life is very important. Then I mentioned about legal assistance. Of course, they're going to see the lawyers. Maybe when you get in touch with support groups like Time to Heal, they're going to direct you to the right resources and say, oh, there are people that can help you to put your things together, that can advise you on what you need to do from the legal perspective, on how you present your case in the court, how you can get some child support, how you can get something on alimony and things like that. So you need some legal assistance. So are the things we do to build financial resilience. Financial counseling is very important. Employment support is important, and legal assistance is very important. I want us to quickly talk about financial literacy. Financial literacy is very crucial for survivors because that is when they can make informed financial decisions and achieve financial stability. It's essential for them, number one, to understand some basic financial concepts like budgeting, like saving, like investing. I mean, budgeting is very important. If somebody is earning 2,000 euros, 2,000 pounds in a month, and at the end of the month is planning to spend 3,000, he's spending more than he's earning already. So every month you're going to go into a budget, into deficit. That means every month you'll be having debts accumulating. And you might be under that situation where your abuser is someone that is in that situation that there are situations where the men and the women, they don't share the same views when it comes to money. The man spends money, they want to put on this, and the woman is the one trying to say, let's slow down. So in that situation, you need to have an understanding of the financial concept. Budgeting, savings, investing. Develop a realistic budget that aligns with your income and your expenses. Like I said, you can't be making 2,000 and be thinking of spending 3,000. It does not make any sense, and it doesn't add value to somebody's life. You're just going to work and work and work and work. And life does not have any duplicates. Learn how to manage your debt effectively, potentially through debt consolidation or repayment plans. We are talking about survivors of domestic abuse. It used to be two people facing this before. It's one person now. So it's very important for that individual, whether it's your brother, your sister, your uncle, for them to have an understanding that they need to manage their debts now more effective, because it could be through repayment plans that we have to make. It might be through debt consolidation. And they have to develop strategies for building savings and achieving long-term financial goals. There's this 70-20-10 rule we have. It's a rule of budgeting. What that means is that if you are making 10,000 euros every month, 70% of it should go for living expenses. Living expenses, then you have 20% go to savings and investment, and 10% go to debt repayment or donations. 70-20-10 rule of budgeting. That's what it says. The living expenses, it can be things that you need to do that is very, very important for you. They are your needs. You are living in a house, you want to pay mortgages. In fact, there's a rule that says if you are spending more than 30% to 40% of your income, more than that on mortgages, you're already mortgaging your financial future. Because if you're making 10,000, you're spending 50, 60,000 out of, you're making 100,000 in a year, you're spending 60,000 at the end of the year for mortgages, that's too much. So you have to work within the 30%, 40% to make sure that's what you have. But all the living expenses, about 70%. Then 20%, let that be your savings and your investment. And let the 10% be for debt repayment, gradually paying back. Like I said before, now it is one person that's bearing the cost. It's not two people before. I know the Bible said two are better than one, because they will have, apart from warming each other up, it says they'll be able to lift each other up. Where one to fall down, the other one will lift up. But I always say you're talking about two good heads. It's not just any two heads. You have to be two good heads that are better than one. And then there's the 50-30-20 rule. The 50-30-20 rule says that 50% should be for your needs. And for that, you're talking about your housing. You're talking about food. You're talking about transportation, utilities. These are the things that you would normally spend money on. They are your needs. 50% of your income should go on that. So for the survivors, if they not be doing that before, maybe it's in the hand of the abuser. Now you are the one that have to take charge of your financial future. 50% of what you have, let it go towards your needs. And that's why even if you are living in a 5-bedroom house before, what works for you at this time might just be a 2-bedroom apartment. Don't bother about it. You get out of it. Just go into that situation first and get yourself back on track. Then you can still go back to what you are. But at that instance, just downplay and let 50% goes into your needs. 30% should go into your wants. The wants are those things that necessarily you can afford not to do them. Oh, I want to go for vacation. I want to travel. They are wants. And the difference between needs and wants. Many times we confuse wants with needs. A 17-year-old need to go to school. Want to pay the tuition. But a 70-year-old may want to drive a car. That's not a need. It's a want. I want it. It doesn't mean that you need it. So we need to be able to separate between needs, want, and the 20% can be for the debt repayment we talk about. Making sure that we are able to take care of debts that have been accumulated, either by the two people or by yourself that you are facing to repay back. I talk about accessing safe and affordable banking services. The survivors, oftentimes they face challenges as accessing traditional banking services due to limited credit history. Most times you see people going for like mortgages, they combine the income of the two people, they get a house, a big house, and they're living there. But now it's one person. So sometimes they have some challenges in being able to access traditional banking services, and especially when the abuse was going on, it was such a situation where some money were not being paid regularly. So the credit history is already going bad already. So now by the time the abuse actually and you escape, you are faced with that thing because it's what's in both names. And so there might be problem in accessing safe and affordable banking services. But at this time, what you want to look for is to look for community-based financial institutions. These are the ones that provide financial services tailored to needs of low-income and marginalized individuals, including survivors of domestic abuse. We have the second chance banking programs. These programs allow individuals with limited credit history or a history of financial difficulties to establish banking relationship again. Then you have prepaid debit cards. These are cards that offer secure and convenient way to access funds. So if you get 10 of the support groups, then you might be able to talk to them, or a financial counseling that we talk about. They can guide you to the banks, the second chance banking programs that you can go to at that time to be able to get yourself back on feet. Then it's very important that you rebuild credit because you're not going to stay in that situation forever. We know the credits have been bastardized, have been messed up because of what happened, but you want to rebuild it. So what you want to do is make sure you pay your bills on time. Consistent bill payments demonstrate responsibility of financial management and improve your credit score. So make sure you are paying your bills on time. Even if you can't pay much than you used to, at least the minimum, just pay for that period of time and make sure you are paying. Because if you don't, it goes to your credit history and it goes to make situation much, much worse when you want to get yourself back on feet. Then make sure you use your credit responsibly. Survivors use credit cards cautiously and make payments on time to avoid accruing high interest rates and damaging their credit history. Try to see if you can get a separate credit card. There was a credit card that you both had before that was in both names. Try to get your own credit card now. Try to report that you want to get out of that situation and have your own in your own name. You need to have a new account, a new bank account that will have your name so that you can now work on your own credit. Then you want to monitor your credit reports. There are free credit reports that's available. I think it should be in Europe, where you have the Experian, the TransUnion, about 3 of them. At least you're entitled to one free report every year. And there are those credit karma that they are monitoring your credit for you. They can give you a lot if something happens to your credit. Just register with them for a nominal fee and they can alert you if anything was going on. Because the one that was abused before will not stop. It will still go ahead to do certain things to make sure they deal with you. The idea for the abuser is when you say you go, they still want to run after you. Because they want to make sure that you feel that they are no more in your life. So they are not going to leave you alone. They still want to prove it to you that you will need to run back again. And the only thing they can do for you is to make sure they mess you up a little more, especially if you are dealing with a narcissist. I'm sure some of them do the narcissist. So for those that have the NPD, they will go after you. They will run and make sure they won't just stop because you leave. They're still going to make sure they prove it to the whole world that you can't survive without them. So they will go after. So we want to make sure you are monitoring your credit reports. Then we're going to navigate legal regulatory frameworks. So we're going to seek legal counsel with our lawyers and ask them, what do I do now? Legal recourse against abusers who have misused their finances. You're going to look for a financial professional, consider hiring a divorce coach. Debt survivors may be able to seek relief from debt obligations incurred by their abusers or during their abusive relationship, like child support. You want to be sure that you can pursue such payment from their abusers because you need it to support your children. I'm trying to work within the minutes I have. You need a personalized financial roadmap. So what that means is that when I say your financial roadmap, it's like a GPS, which means for your financial journey, you need to have something that can guide you towards your goals and help you navigate the twists and the turns that you are going to go. It's like a GPS. So the first thing you want to define, what is your financial goal? And you know that when it comes to this domestic abuse, many people are in that abuse, but they could not leave because of the finance. They are just there suffering quietly because what will I do without this man? Where would I start from? That is what goes on in their minds. So they are there suffering and suffering until something bad, really bad happens. And that is why it's very important that you have a roadmap. Apart from our escape, think of what happened the day this man, that you're not in that man's house anymore. Or, like I said, men too go through it. There are women that have dealt with men in various forms and they have to start all over again. 1 out of every 7 men go through it. Men cry too. So you want to assess your current financial situation. You gather all your financial information, including your income, your expenses, your assets and liabilities. Think of tax withholding. Because you are going to be filing now either as single or head of household, you're not going to file as married anymore. So what you want to do is you need to identify what are the income brackets. Sometimes you can work and you move out of your income bracket just by a few 100 or 200, and you're going to be in the new income bracket for paying your taxes. That's why you need to have an understanding of your tax withholding. If you are married, there are income brackets, and I believe it happened in Europe too. There are income brackets where you say married, you need to earn between maybe 100,000 to 150,000 to be in this particular income bracket. And you are the only one person that you're going to be filing either as single or head of household. Then you want to see that you don't cross the one for the married. Maybe you'll be working 16 hours before. Sometimes you just want to slow down so that you don't cross that margin and pay an exorbitant tax and fall into a tax bracket that will be too expensive for you. Update your beneficiaries on your life insurance policy. Because now, some of us maybe put your spouse as a beneficiary before. If anything happens to you, there are people that have even killed themselves because they know they were on the life insurance. All they are thinking is the money, the life insurance that the person holds, and they go after the life of that individual. So now you need to quickly update that. You need to take him off, and to take her off. Think of your children alone. They are beneficiaries. Then be focused. Don't allow emotion to cloud your judgment about marital home. It's a good advice for survivors because many times people think, oh, if I leave this house, people will think I'm finished. They get so emotional to the house, and it could be very costly to keep that house. Because 2 people were paying, even if not people were paying the mortgage before, maybe the man was paying the mortgage, and you are busy paying the utilities, but now it's going to be you paying everything. And you still want to keep to the house. You say, and you know in this part of the world where the women say, you have to get out of this house for me. This is not Africa. You are going to get out. And the men are pushed out of the house and they leave. And the woman 3 months down the line find out that she can't even pay the mortgage anymore. And so they get too emotional with it. If you need to sell the house, please sell it, downgrade and move to a lower place where you can pay less mortgage. Don't get too emotional to that house and say, oh, what will my friends say? What will my family say? It doesn't add any value to anybody. We need to be financially intelligent. Then I talk about financial planning. Divorce leaves you in debt due to legal bills and other associated costs. There's no way this abuse thing leads to divorce that won't lead to some accumulation of debt. You have to pay your lawyers. It's not every time that the person going through it, we have to throw the cost of legal bills on the abuser. Sometimes it might be the person that will have to just have to pay it. So you need financial planning. Create a comprehensive financial plan that will address your immediate needs and your long-term financial goals. Certain that you don't need. You want to downgrade. The space you are using for the garage, there are a lot of things in the garage that you don't even need. There are shoes you bought 5 years ago that you have not even put on your feet. Take care of those things. Change your auto insurance plans. Change your cell phone plans. If you are using unlimited, change it to one you can manage with your new income. Protect your phone records too. Fight alimony. Pay your spouse off rather than paying alimony for life. Sometimes you may be the one that has to pay the alimony for the rest of your life. 10 years, you have continue paying. If you need to pay it now, just pay it now and forget about whatever it is. So that somebody is not still running after your money for the next 15, 20 years. Then we talk about budgets. You need to create budgets. Track your expenses. Monitor your income and spending so that you can identify the areas that you need to improve, the one that you need to make some financial informed decisions. Manage your debt. There are high interest debt, there are low interest debt. You have to decide, am I going to pay the one with higher interest first or the one with lower interest? There are two ways to it. There are people that if you hold maybe 200 euros, 500 euros, some people will start with the one with 200 euros, even when the interest rate is higher, because they believe it makes them feel like a form of achievement. Oh, the 200 euro, I paid it off. The 500, I paid it off. The 700, I paid it off. It gives some level of relief for you. It depends on your individual person. Some people will prefer to go for the high interest rates first and say, oh, I'm going to deal with this one headlong and take care of it and bring it down. Then I will go for the lower interest rate. Whatever works for you, but make sure it's something that you have to take off. Then build an emergency fund. These are for unexpected expenses like medical bills, car repairs, job loss. Mama, I'm only there mentioned about people, the diaspora insurance for death. Those are the things you want to prepare. You want to make sure that emergency fund, so that we don't go for GoFundMe if anything happens. You want to be able to put some money in emergency. Every money you earn every month, you should have money saved for emergency. If it is just 1% or 2% of work for 15 days or 10 working days, you should have something to say, this is saving. Many of us, we can say, okay, I'm going to pay my tithe, but you must also have something for saving. It's very important. You can't work for 10 working days without having at least £1 or £2 and say, this is what I have in emergency. It's very important. Maybe when you are under the abuse, you might not be able to think about it, but now it's very important that you think about it. Set aside at least 3 to 6 months. Living expenses, that is the recommendation. 3 to 6 months of your salaries should be in an emergency fund. Then you can face other things. So if you don't have any money in emergency, don't start talking of vacations and going on cruise and going on this. Start saving for emergency, because anything can happen. Nobody is promised tomorrow. Use your credit wisely. Avoid excessive credit card debts. Pay bills on time and use credit responsibly. These are some of the budgeting and money management I want us to think of. Then think of collaborative partnerships and support services. That is where we have domestic violence shelters, financial literacy programs, support groups, job training programs. I'm sure Time to Heal is out there to support people in these local areas to make sure they have access to all this information, and some other charity organizations around. It's a great thing that Time to Heal is in this environment. And it's great that everybody in this area should have an idea there's a Time to Heal in Aberdeen and other partnership around here. Then you want to think of retirement. Start saving early for retirement. You don't have to work for 20 years before you retire. There are people that are just 40 years old and they retire. They stop the 9 to 5 work because they have done a lot of investments and they are just good for the next 40 years. So it's not, you don't have to work till you are 70 years old and still be working in the store at age of 75. You don't have to. You can do whatever you need to do now, starting of retirement now. Build up your assets in stocks, bonds, real estate, other assets that can grow your wealth over time. Consider buying a home to build equity and create a stable living environment. You need education. You need to develop your skills. Don't be complacent with what you have. Always learning new things. Continue learning new things. Because that is what will add value to your lives. Like we are learning now. And I say a call to action by addressing the financial challenges faced by survivors. You see how that woman raised up his hands? What do we do next? Here we go. Support. Let's provide survivors with access to essential financial resources and support services like we are doing now. Let's offer empathy, encouragement, and resources to survivors that are seeking to rebuild their lives. Let's promote financial literacy and empower survivors to make informed financial decisions. Let's advocate for policies and laws that protect survivors' financial rights and their financial obligations. Those are the things we are doing now. Some of us are here today. Some of us are watching online in different areas, part of the world. We have cousins, we have uncles, we have brothers and sisters. These are the things we want to pass across to them. If you are going through any of these are the things you need to do. And we're going to reach out. That falls under the speak out and seek for help. I will discuss much earlier. Thank you all for listening. I don't know if there are questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Through this. There are women that work, they don't even know the PIN number to go to the bank, because the man controls everything. Then secondly, sometimes it's the woman that take care of the house here, paying the rent, buying the food and all this, and the man will say, we are building a house back at home.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of women are not aware that their names are not on the deeds
Yeah.
of the house.
Oh, yes.
Until one day you are talking to your mother-in-law, you say, it's my son's house. And we have had instances of men use up the woman's account, and then maybe the woman say, just wait for a year, let me do my master's. And the man will say no, and just carry everything, go home, and the woman is left here with nothing. So what can women do about this?
Oh, thank you so much, man, for that observation. I agree with you. We see that often. It happens. Um, it requires some level of understanding when you are dealing with such individuals. Uh, it's not every man that will play into that role. There are some men that are sensible enough and understand enough, and they plan together as a family. I think the basic thing that we need to work at is the man and the woman are they friends. It's not every marriage you see that they are friends. It's not. People get married not because they are friends. Some situations just bring them together and they are together. And a friend is someone you can dare to be yourself. It's someone that you know, that you care for. And so you will not want to hurt someone that you actually care for. And so when a woman finds herself in that situation, is because the man was never her friend in the first place. Because I can't imagine a man building a house. You're in the same house with your woman, you are putting money together, you sleep maybe on the same bed, and you are doing something in the village, you don't have a name on it. It's not fair. It's not fair. So, but when the situations are like that, what you will expect the woman, the 20th century woman, what we should do is, it's good that you have an account in your name. I understand that you just come into the country 1 year, 2 years, you need to do it. But after that period, you are trying to establish yourself, try to create an account in your own name, even if it's just a savings account, and have a conversation about it. I want us to do this. If you have an account in your own name, I have an account in my own name, some little expenses, I don't have to wait for you to know that it's that time of the month. I need some money for myself. You need some money for yourself to spend, maybe for your uncles or brothers, your mother. But there's a joint account that we keep. So the three accounts are very important. One in my name, one in your name, and one as joint. It may not be immediately you come in to the country, but that should be the plan. That this is what we should do. Because it's very important that we take care of ourselves. That's what I would recommend to any woman. And if the man is not being reasonable enough, then it becomes an agenda. That's what it means. And in that situation, you still go ahead and do what you need to do without bringing him into that discussion.
I also think that this is a kind of education for all of us
Yes.
women, because I really can't understand why a man should stop me from opening an account. But there are
Yeah.
instances where we have taken women to the bank to open an account for themselves, but they wouldn't. They will say, oh, I can't do that. My husband is always my husband. And not only that, here, there are instances where a man is buying a house, the wife is not in the deeds.
That's not right.
And there are instances where the house belongs to the woman and the man have sold the house without her knowledge. Because I work with women, you hear all kinds of stories and you get all kinds of phone calls. So some of these questions we ask for the benefit of people that are so much in love that they don't they don't think of the shark around them. So it's for our own education that you should be wise. Your name is not on a thing. I remember going to buy a fridge, and my husband put his name, but I was the one paying. After I filled the form, I told the man, no, put my name there. I don't. I just said, I don't want his sister coming to say it's his fridge. It's my fridge. So you have to be wise, whether it's a house or an account. I agree 100% with what my brother said, that you should have your own account, because it's demeaning for you to go every day and beg a man, give me money to go and buy dress, give me money to send to my brother and all this. So if your father and your brother pay your school fees, no man should be controlling the purse. Oh, is she?
So I was waiting. um, I just want to say thank you, sir, for
Thank you,
the
man.
fabulous. I think we need to clap for our brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you. You know, very, very interesting. And I just want to say, even if you're not a Christian, there's something called wisdom. And the Bible is very clear about obtaining wisdom. And when you obtain it, put it like a pendant on your neck.
Yes.
All of us, we know the person we marry, unless if you want to deceive ourselves, you will know whether that person is a kind person or unkind. And the examples that our mother has provided, they're valid, but I think sometimes it's borderline stupidity. I'm sorry to be using the word stupid, because you are the one working. I'm a social worker by profession, so some of the things that my mom here said, they're real. You know, even sometimes some women will have to go and beg for sanitary towels.
Yes.
And I always wondered, there's something called personal responsibility. We can do this lecture, we can do this all day long. If you don't take it in, If the ideas are not becoming actions, we can't help you. Time to heal the women, African women, for Scottish women or whatever. We can do that all day long. But if you don't take the bold steps to actually do something about it, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to leave that man, one day the man may die. So what's the point? And some of us, we say because of the children. And I come in from London. Majority of the young people now, they don't want to marry because they've seen us living stupidly with their fathers, and they think, are your brain okay? Are you okay? And because of that, we're pushing them to get married, and they say, if that is what marriage is all about, I don't want to do it. So what I'm saying here this afternoon is we need to start reflecting on what we've heard. We need to start thinking. I'm not saying that you get home and see your husbands as, monsters, but there are some things that we need to take actions about. God bless you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. That's what I was referring to when I said the husband doesn't have to know it's that time of the month. Because there should be something you should be able to do. You don't wait to pick up the salt in the kitchen. It's not right. And we talk about this domestic abuse. It's not just the slapping and the eating.
There's
If
emotional
you
abuse.
have a man
Yeah.
who believes that account should be in his name, that thing should be bought in his name, that deed should be in his name, that account, you don't need a separate account for your pay, for your direct deposit, it's a form of abuse. It's passive, but it's an abuse. You are an individual, you are a person, you are a daughter of someone, just like it's a son of someone. You went to school, your parents spent money on you. It is important, and it is very expedient that at the end of the time you remember your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, without having to run to the man and say this. You will have your own account to take care of those little things, miscellaneous. He has one for himself. Then there should be the joint, where for family expenses go into. That is an appropriate thing to do. So when you have a partner who doesn't share that same values with you, it's a form of abuse. It's very passive, but there is something going on in his head, and it's not too good for you as a person, especially with the kind of background we come from. Even when you put all those things together, there are many things that you as a person can have now, and if anything, in the face of death, they're not even going to be available for anybody. In fact, I don't know how many of you know about what they call a living trust. Because many people even have homes and mortgages, and they think, oh, I have a home, a will. All those will we are putting together, they will still be subject to probate. My lawyer is here. And they're going to get a lot of it before they put the remaining change in the hand of your sons and children. So, but when you put them in trust, you don't own anything. It belongs to the trust. Your life insurance, your mortgages, everything belongs to the trust. So it doesn't go through the probate. And I'm sure our legal experts can advise further on that so that you know where to put your things. That is even another level, not to talk of when your name doesn't even show up at all. That is too dangerous for you. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I was going to say that for the young people that are single, online and in the room, it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have about all this joint ownership of assets, but it's very important. And I think for pastors or marriage counselors or people doing marriage courses, it's very important that they are included in the curriculum. In fact, as a matter of fact, I think those things should be raised before any marriage, because it's not easy. I know somebody that started a conversation, and that conversation actually ended the marriage.
Which is okay.
Exactly. So
It's
it
okay.
was, the guy tried to manipulate to say, oh, you want this. It's just like somebody saying, oh, I want a prenup. And it'd be like, so you are thinking about leaving me. No, I'm not thinking about leaving you. I'm just trying to, set boundaries, rule,
Yes.
ground rules. So for young people, try to start this conversation. It is very important.
very important.
As uncomfortable as it may seem, this is finance is one of the things that, even breaks marriage,
Yes, we say
as
money is
you
a
will.
defense.
Yeah.
Is a
I think
defense,
some
and you
people
need
like to
wisdom to
talk.
combine with it to succeed in the
Yeah, the
marital
Bible says
life.
that wisdom is the principal thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, one more. Okay,
Okay. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for
thank you,
this
man.
wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Um, yes, I've learned a lot, quite a lot from other contributors. I know one of our contributors had said something about people having knowledge about the bold steps and making sure that they take the bold steps. But the very important truth about the matter is that in some homes and even in society, people don't know what those bold steps are. They are not taught in schools, and people don't attend programs where they are taught those bold steps. So there has to be that avenue where those bold steps are taught to young people so that they can begin to think about these things before they get into those stages of marriage and even courtship and all of that. Then I know one of our contributors too has mentioned something along the lines of marriage courses and curriculums. I just wanted to add something to that because some of the marriage courses that we have around are like crash programs. And couples are not given the opportunity or are not even encouraged to share about their individual situations. So you don't even have that conversation in that place, that safe space where a counselor can actually give the right advice. So I think it's something that has to be looked into as well by marriage counselors and churches and different organizations that provide marriage counseling. So my question actually goes this way. So in a situation where, for example, a woman has a bank account, but the husband has already conditioned her mind via manipulation to say, any money in your bank account does not belong to you. It belongs to us. However, you can't send any money to your parents. You can't send any money to anybody. I can check your account at any time. So that woman is living in fear of, oh, my husband might just come tomorrow and say, oh, print out your bank statement. Or he might look through the post and he'll see my bank statement and he'll check it to see how much I've been spending. So what can that woman, what should that woman do? Are there support systems available for such women? And in the workplaces, for example, can women opt for situations where they have a certain percentage of their salaries being diverted to other accounts besides their salary accounts? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think the best way, the basic way to go about it is if a person is going through that situation, we need to speak out. And when you want to speak out, it's not just speaking out for the sake of speaking out. You want to speak to the right people. And that is why, because it's not every friend you think you have that really cares about what is happening to you. If you think you have a friend, that friend has a friend, that friend has a friend. So you're actually talking about yourself to about 5 other people. But you want to go to, that's why people have suggested talking to professionals or to the non-profits. They don't know you from anywhere. They just want to hear your story. They want to offer advices. Because those friends and family members you think you have actually just don't have anything to offer you. In fact, your situation is a little better than theirs. So they just pick your stories and throw it out there. So it's good to talk to those support services that we have. For in this environment, I suggest reach out to Time to Heal. I'm not going to mention places that are thousands of miles away, but I'm sure that in those places, and I know there are other local groups here, support groups around here, like Mama Bita mentioned about one of our institutions, and I know those people are around. And that is why this is education for all of us. You know, it is good that we think the woman is in that situation, but I tell you, men find themselves in that situation too. In fact, one of the slogans I hear back there is that the woman tells the man, your money belongs to us, my money belongs to me. That's how the woman says it. Your money belongs to us, but my money belongs to me. Men, we often hear that too. And so in that situation, the man is out there just trying to take care of their families. And you know, if you know, it's a little bit lopsided. The man, I'm talking about the man with a good head. I'm talking about a man with a good head. He cares for his family. His family is very important to him. If you ask a man, he wakes up every morning, the first thing he thinks is, how is my family going to survive today? That's a man with a good head. It's not just someone that's thinking of what he will get out of the whole thing. Sorry? So the man with the bad head, if you are dealing with the one with a bad head, then you don't want to hang around that for too long. So you are, there's an abuse going on. I say it when a man talks in a particular way that he thinks you don't deserve some level of financial independence, is a passive abuse. An abuse is going on. You may not know it, but he knows it. And you need to seek for help. And it's okay, like the last person asked, at your job, you can tell them and say 80% to this account, 20% to here, 5% to here. Instruction you give them at your job, your direct deposit, they will follow. But it's very important that you have something in your name. It's very important. Forget about all this, I love you, I love you. It's very important to have it. It's very, because that is how you're protected in case anything happens. Nobody plans to get married to get divorced. Nobody, on the wedding day, everybody's like, this is forever. But 2 years down the line, 6 weeks down the line, 2 weeks down the line, we've seen it before days. It's all over. All those loving, everything just fade off. Like, what? Is it true? And many times the things that you think you go weather together, you just find out that it's not what it is. Anything can happen. Anything can happen on both sides. So it's important that you just have some level of financial independence, some level of wisdom. That's why the Bible says wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. The excellency of wisdom is that it gives life to those that have it. That's where I started. I end with that.
Sorry, sir, just the very last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where does the tithes fall under when you talk about the 70-30? Is it 70,
The
20,
70,
10,
30,
and then the
10.
51? Yeah. Where does tithe fall into?
Okay.
Tithe and offerings.
On the faith levels, we say if it's 100%, the 10% of it go into the tithe, because that is what the scripture says. The 10th. There have been different schools who argue it and say that's Old Testament, this is New Testament, you don't have to give tithe. I hear all that on social media. But the only problem I have with that as a personal opinion, is that why is it that people say that paying tithe is Old Testament, but they claim the blessings of the Old Testament? Why would they pray with Old Testament prayers? But when it comes to instruction from the Old Testament, they say that is not for this New Testament. That is hypocrisy. So I think the 10% of the gross, whatever we have, is God says, bring it to me. Don't bother yourself how you spend. Just do what you need to do. And I've not seen anybody that paid tithe that is very tight for them. I've never seen that. It might not be as, but things God has, you can't serve God. Is a rewarder of those that seek him. You can't serve God and you shortchange yourself. So the 10% of everything goes to God. The remaining 90%, 70, 20, 10. That's how we recommend.
So how will you pay your debts?
No, I'm saying that after, let's say you make 10,000 in a month. 10% of that, right? We say is 1,000. Okay, so it remains 9,000. So 70% of 9,000